Hello, my name is Brandon Devnich from Pegasaas.com. I'm the primary developer here. And today I'm going to walk through the recent updates that we've put into version 2.2.11. So in this week, much like in previous releases, we have focused in on the installation, both the usability and the reliability of the installation routine. So as far as usability is concerned, we added a new step at the beginning of the installation wizard, which basically explained the process as well as gave the user the ability to change the interface style. By default, when we developed Pegasaas, we developed it in a dark mode, much like you see here with my Dreamweaver interface and a couple other interfaces. I prefer dark. I thought it was cool, it looked edgy, and we hadn't seen anything like it before. And we've had a lot of positive response to it, but we also have had response that says, oh, it's too heavy for me. So we've gone and added two new styles that you can choose. There is the light style, which is sort of styled with the Pegasaas clouds and whatnot. It's much lighter, does have a little bit of blue in it. And then there's also the plain style, and that is much more like the default native WordPress gray or taupey background. And so you can choose this on step 1 of the installation wizard. Moving through step 2 and step 3, now on to step 4, the step that you choose which assets you want optimized has been refined. No longer are you going to choose the arbitrary number of pages or posts for those particular categories. There's a new option called advanced where you can individually accelerate or enable acceleration on all pages or only some individual pages if you wish, or posts, as well as any of the custom post types that you may have installed in your WordPress website. So it actually adds a lot more flexibility in that option. You can still choose just optimize the home page, optimize everything, or you can individually optimize individual pages or posts. So as far as the reliability is concerned, we've noticed that some installations hang. And it's always, in the installation routine, it always shows hung at 93%. Now that 93% is basically it's waiting on the page speed scores. So what happens when the initialization process commences is that it is waiting for the benchmark page speed score for a single page, it only needs one, and the page speed score scan for an optimized page, and it only needs one. Very easy to get the benchmarks scan. We just send a request, it comes back and stores it in the plugin. The accelerated page speed score, though, requires an optimized asset saved and cached in the website. And part of the patches in the previous weeks have been to resolve different scenarios where those requests were not being submitted, such as a timeout connection to the API server or a number of other different small issues. And then this week we found a new one where if you were logged into your dashboard using the HTTPS protocol, so a secure protocol, but your website was set up to use HTTP, there was an inconsistency in how we mapped the pages with what we call a resource ID. And so things were not matching up. Now, this never came up in any of our testing, even though we had tested that scenario. On our testing platforms, for whatever reason, WordPress responded differently. In any case, in the wild, we were finding that this was happening on different hosting platform servers. So we identified the problem, changed the way that we identify a page for its what we call the resource ID, and suddenly the installations stopped hanging at 93% and completed with no problem. So we're pretty excited about that. That's I think probably a major improvement for those sites, obviously, that were hanging on those installs. What we also found was that with the new Divi Builder recent release and the last week's version of Pegasaas Accelerator WP, the builder was not loading properly, and that's the front end builder. And so we identified what the problem was, added some exceptions to our code so that we weren't trying to pre-optimize some assets for the builder, and everything's working fine there. We also did the same sort of thing for the Cornerstone page builder, which I believe is the X theme, I saw it on one website using the X theme. In any case, same sort of concept, although we had to go a little bit more in depth with detecting how the page builder operated. But essentially, we added some exceptions to the plugin so that it wasn't changing how some of the code was running in those particular pages, because they're quite particular how those page builders operate. And then we came across one other issue this week where there was a firewall on a server that was blocking the HTML optimizations from being returned to the plugin. Because what happens is that the plugin says, I need an optimized page. It submits a request to the API. The API does a whole bunch of modifications to the page. It does some detections as to what would be the best possible optimization, and then it submits that back to the plugin. At that point, the plugin is supposed to save the cache and then mark the page as been optimized. Unfortunately, when the payload for the submission back to the plugin is large, such as submitting a page of several hundred kilobytes, plus some JavaScript, plus some CSS, the servers, when they have firewalls, sometimes block that type of request. And so what we implemented instead is what we call a notify and then fetch method. So instead of submitting all that data, if it returns that the request has been blocked, it will then issue a notify that the request is done, and then the plugin will then in turn request a fetch of that data. Kind of technical, but in essence we have resolved these blocks by the software firewall, which is pretty awesome, pretty excited. So that's been our focus this week. We're going to be moving on towards what we call version 2.3, which is the ability to actually track and quantify the amount of time saved for each page load. We're going to be working towards that in March. That's going to be a pretty significant update, so you'll be able to see for all the pages that you optimize how much time you are saving your visitor. You know, if it comes down to minutes per day or hours per day or years per day. I would say that's probably a little on the high side, but the concept is that over time you will find that over the course of a month you might be saving your visitors hours or maybe even days of browsing time by using the plugin. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, and we'll keep you updated with our next release.